Nathan sat in his office, staring out of the large window, the city skyline stretching before him. At 42, he had built a life most would envy: successful career, loving wife, and a son who filled his world with joy. But as he sat there, the ghost of his past haunted him. It had all begun with his marriage to Sophia when he was just 26. They were young, excited, and eager to build their lives together. Nathan had always admired her, her intelligence, her beauty, and her infectious enthusiasm. They were childhood sweethearts, and he thought they would grow old together, their love growing stronger with every passing year. In the beginning, everything felt perfect. Their lives seemed to align so effortlessly. They shared common goals and dreams, both driven to make something of themselves. Nathan worked long hours in a corporate job, and Sophia was a successful marketing professional. They bought their first home together, a modest two-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, and the world seemed full of promise. But over time, things started to shift. The spark that had once burned brightly between them began to flicker out. Sophia became more distant, often lost in her own thoughts, her smiles less frequent. Nathan tried to engage her, to talk to her about their relationship, but it felt like he was talking to a wall. Every time he attempted to have an honest conversation, Sophia would withdraw further, her responses curt, her attention elsewhere. Nathan, ever the optimist, kept pushing, thinking it was just a phase. He booked surprise getaways, planned date nights, and even started leaving little notes for Sophia to remind her of how much she meant to him. But no matter what he did, Sophia seemed unaffected. Nathan's heart began to ache. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, but he didn't know what it was. A few weeks before their third anniversary, the devastating truth was revealed. One evening, as Nathan returned home after a late meeting, he found Sophia sitting on the couch, her eyes red as if she had been crying. She handed him a manila envelope and said the words that would change his life forever. "I think we should get a divorce, Nathan," she said, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. "I'm no longer in love with you." Nathan froze, the weight of her words sinking into him like a heavy stone. He could hardly breathe. It was as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. He had always feared this moment, but never truly believed it would come. Why? What happened? Nathan's voice cracked as he asked, searching her face for any signs of regret, of love still lingering in her eyes. Sophia looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "I just don't feel the same anymore. It's been building for a while. I think we've both known this for some time now." He tried to understand, tried to reach for something, anything that could explain why their love had faded. But no matter how hard he tried, all Sophia would say was that she simply wasn't in love with him anymore. The words stung, but the emptiness behind them was even more painful. He had never seen this coming, and the thought of losing everything, his wife, their home, the life they had built, was unbearable. Yet in the face of her cold indifference, Nathan had no choice but to accept it. He signed the papers that same night, his hand trembling as he scribbled his name. There was no point in fighting for something that had already died. The divorce was quick and painless, a simple legal process with minimal assets to divide. Their shared belongings were few, their connection already severed by months of emotional distance. Nathan moved out of the house and Sophia moved on, vanishing from his life as quickly as she had entered it. The days following the divorce were a blur of confusion and sorrow. Nathan tried to reach out to his family, hoping they would offer some kind of comfort, or at least a listening ear. But his calls went unanswered, his messages ignored. His parents, who had once been so involved in his life, stopped communicating altogether. It was as though they had cut ties with him without explanation. Even his sister, who he had been close to, distanced herself from him. Nathan was left to face the emotional wreckage alone. He tried to make sense of it, to understand why his family had abandoned him in his time of need. He had been through so much, and yet no one reached out. It was as though they had decided he wasn't worth their time anymore, that his pain didn't matter. It hurt more than he could put into words. Weeks turned into months, and Nathan found himself sinking deeper into a depression. He quit his job, unable to face the world outside. He spent days at home, staring at the walls, wondering where everything had gone wrong. He felt completely isolated, cut off from the people who should have been there for him. His friends tried to help, but it wasn't enough. The pain of the divorce and the betrayal from his family felt like a heavy weight on his chest, one that he couldn't escape. But one day, while sorting through some old boxes, Nathan found something that reignited a spark within him. A vision board he had created years ago. On it were pictures of his dreams. Building a business, creating something from the ground up, and finding success in his own terms. He had set these goals when he first got married, thinking that his life would unfold a certain way. But now, in the wake of his failed marriage, he realized that maybe he still had a chance to make something of himself. Maybe this was the moment to start fresh, to rebuild from scratch. Nathan decided then and there that he would pursue his dream of starting his own business, something he had put off for years due to his marriage and other responsibilities. It wasn't just about proving something to Sophia, his family, or anyone else. It was about proving something to himself, that he could succeed, that he could rise from the ashes and rebuild a life worth living. After months of uncertainty, Nathan pulled himself together and decided to take the plunge into entrepreneurship. He remembered the many conversations he had with Sophia about opening his own interior design business, discussions that always seemed to fall by the wayside as they focused on their family and marriage. Now, with no one to answer to but himself, Nathan felt it was finally time to make that dream a reality. His first step was to take a risk and invest what little savings he had into a small design firm. He didn't have much, just enough to rent a tiny office space and hire a couple of part-time assistants. But what Nathan did have was determination and a reputation as a skilled designer. He began to use his network, reaching out to clients he had worked with in the past, letting them know he was now running his own business. At first, business was slow. He spent long hours sketching designs, meeting with clients, and overseeing installations. There were moments when he questioned if he had made the right choice, especially when things felt overwhelming. But with each project, Nathan's passion for design reignited. He poured his heart into every piece of work, ensuring that his clients' needs were met with creativity and precision. Slowly but surely, the reputation of his company began to grow. Word of mouth brought in more clients, and Nathan's design started gracing high-end apartment buildings and upscale office spaces. Nathan was building something meaningful for the first time in years, something that didn't involve the painful baggage of his past marriage. He was free to shape his own destiny. His work began to speak for itself, and soon his small firm expanded. He hired more employees, each one bringing their own unique talent to the table. As his company grew, so did his confidence. After 5 years, Nathan's interior design firm became well known in the industry. He was no longer just a man who had suffered a divorce. He was a business owner with an established name. His firm had completed projects for several major hotels and corporate offices. But Nathan didn't stop there. He knew this was only the beginning. He began to focus on long-term goals, expanding his brand, taking on larger projects, and diversifying into other areas of the hospitality industry. With hard work and perseverance, Nathan was becoming a leader in his field. His business was thriving, and his confidence was at an all-time high. But he still had a void in his personal life. It was during one of these business functions that he met Claire, a fellow entrepreneur who shared his passion for design and success. They hit it off immediately. Nathan admired her strength and independence, and Claire was drawn to Nathan's drive and determination. Over the next few months, they began spending more time together, dinners, work events, and even casual outings. Claire wasn't like anyone Nathan had met before. She had a natural warmth that balanced out his intensity. She was grounded, thoughtful, and had a genuine care for the people in her life. They spent hours talking about their respective journeys, both having come from humble beginnings, but determined to create lives filled with meaning. Claire understood the hardships Nathan had faced, having built her own business from the ground up, and Nathan appreciated the space she gave him to heal from his past. After 2 years of dating, Nathan proposed to Claire. She said yes without hesitation, and soon they were married in a small ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family who had supported him throughout his journey. Claire and Nathan had always spoken about starting a family, and shortly after their wedding, they found out they were expecting their first child. Their son, Ethan, was born a year later, and Nathan felt as though he had finally found the stability and happiness he had longed for. With Claire by his side, Nathan continued to grow his business. He expanded into hotels, opened more design offices, and started working on international projects. The company went from a small local operation to an internationally recognized brand. Nathan was no longer just an entrepreneur. He was a visionary in the hospitality industry. He had made it, both personally and professionally. As Nathan's career reached new heights, he felt that his past was finally behind him. His family, the people who had once abandoned him during his lowest point, seemed to be a distant memory. He had no real interest in reaching out to them. After all, they had been the ones who decided he wasn't worth their time when he needed them most. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Nathan had recently been interviewed by a popular business channel. The segment about his rise from humble beginnings to a successful entrepreneur was picked up by several other outlets, and it quickly went viral. Nathan's story of perseverance and determination resonated with many viewers, but he had no idea how much of an impact it would have on his family. 3 days after the interview aired, Nathan received an unexpected call at his office. His receptionist informed him that his parents and sister had arrived and were waiting in the lobby to see him. Nathan was caught off guard. He hadn't spoken to them in over 20 years, not since they had cut him out of their lives during his divorce. The idea that they were suddenly interested in seeing him now, after all this time, felt incredibly strange. He walked down to the lobby to meet them, unsure of what to expect. His parents and sister greeted him with smiles, but the tension in the air was palpable. They were acting as though nothing had changed, as if the past 2 decades of silence hadn't happened. "We're so proud of you, Nathan," his mother said, her voice filled with emotion. "Your story is so inspiring. It's amazing to see how far you've come. We should have been there for you all these years. I'm sorry we didn't support you like we should have." Nathan felt a rush of anger mixed with confusion. Why were they here now? After everything that had happened? They hadn't been there when he was at his lowest, but now, when he had built a successful life, they were eager to step back into his world. His sister chimed in. "We didn't want to upset anyone, but we've always been proud of you. We want to make things right, Nathan. You deserve to have us in your life again." Nathan couldn't contain his frustration any longer. "Make things right? After all these years, you think showing up now will fix everything? Where were you when I needed you? Why didn't you tell me the truth when it mattered?" He paused, feeling the weight of his words. He had never confronted them like this before. His family had failed him in the most crucial moment of his life, and now they were acting as though everything could be swept away because of his success. He couldn't just let it go. "I need to know why you abandoned me," Nathan demanded. "Why did you cut me off when I needed you the most? I've been through so much, and you've been silent for years. Now all of a sudden you want to be part of my life? I don't know if I can forgive you." His family fell silent at his words, and for the first time, his mother seemed unsure of herself. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. "There's something we need to tell you, Nathan," she said. "Something we should have told you years ago. The truth about Sophia and Derek." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what she was about to say, but he could tell it was something that would change everything. His mother took a deep breath and continued. "Sophia had an affair with Derek, your cousin. We knew about it. We didn't tell you because we were afraid of what it would do to the family. Your uncle, Derek's father, has always had a great deal of influence, and we didn't want to lose that connection." Nathan was stunned. Derek, his cousin, the one person he had always disliked growing up? His mind raced as he tried to process what his mother was saying. "So you kept this from me?" Nathan asked, his voice shaking with anger. "You knew all along that Sophia was cheating on me, and you didn't say a word?" His mother nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "We didn't know how to tell you, Nathan. We were afraid of what it would mean for all of us. Your uncle made it clear that if we said anything, we would be cut off. So we chose to stay quiet. We made the wrong decision, but it wasn't out of malice. We did it out of fear." Nathan's chest tightened with the weight of her words. His family had known, and yet they said nothing. They allowed him to live in ignorance while they protected Derek and Sophia. He felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under him. All this time, he had been living a lie. But the worst was yet to come. His mother's next words hit him like a punch to the gut. "And there's more. Sophia was pregnant when she divorced you, Nathan. She had a child. Your daughter. She's 20 now. You've never met her. Nathan's world seemed to crumble. His hands shook as he struggled to take in the enormity of what his mother had just revealed. He had a daughter, a child he never knew about, one that had been raised by Derek, the man who had taken everything from him. Nathan stood there in stunned silence, the room around him suddenly feeling suffocating. His mind raced to process the words that had just been spoken. A daughter, a child he never knew he had. The realization hit him hard, like a punch to the stomach. His life, which he had so carefully built, suddenly felt like a lie. For 20 years he had lived in the dark, believing he had no more family to care for, no more ties to his past. But now it was all coming into focus. Sophia, his ex-wife, had not only cheated on him with his cousin Derek, but had kept a secret from him, their child. He had a daughter, and for 2 decades she had grown up thinking Derek was her father. Nathan's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and disbelief all washed over him. How could Sophia have kept this from him? How could his family, his own parents and sister, have allowed this to happen? They had known all along, and yet they had stayed silent, choosing to protect Derek and Sophia at his expense. His mother, noticing the shock and hurt in Nathan's eyes, continued, her voice soft and filled with regret. We didn't know what to do, Nathan. We thought it was best to keep everything quiet. We thought you'd be better off not knowing. And when Sophia told us she was pregnant, we tried to convince her to tell you, but she wouldn't. She didn't want to complicate things for Derek. Your cousin was the one she wanted to raise the child with. And as for us, we were afraid of upsetting your uncle. Derek's father. He's always been so controlling. We were afraid we'd lose everything. So we kept quiet. We cut you off because we thought it was the only way to keep the peace with them. Nathan's anger flared. And what about me? What about my peace? What about my right to know the truth about my own life? His voice cracked with emotion, the hurt and anger boiling over. You lied to me for years. You kept me in the dark about my own child. I could have been there for her, could have been her father, but you all chose to protect your precious family connections instead. His father, who had been sitting quietly, finally spoke up. I know it's hard to understand, Nathan, but we didn't see any other option. Your uncle has always had influence over the family business. He didn't want anyone disrupting his control, and frankly, Derek was always treated as the golden child in this family. It's not right, but we didn't want to risk it all by making waves. You have to understand. I don't understand, Nathan snapped. You didn't want to risk losing your place in the family business, so you let me live with the consequences. You let me suffer without ever telling me the truth. How could you do that to me? The weight of everything, his failed marriage, the betrayal by his family, the fact that he had missed out on 20 years of being a father, was too much to bear. Nathan had always worked hard, trying to prove to himself that he was worthy of success and happiness. But now, with the truth out in the open, it felt like he had been living in the shadow of someone else's choices for far too long. Why didn't you tell me? Why keep me away from my own daughter? You could have at least told me that she existed, Nathan demanded, his voice shaky but firm. His mother wiped a tear from her cheek. We thought it would be easier for you not to know. We never wanted you to be hurt. But we can't undo the past, Nathan. All we can do now is apologize. And if you're willing to, we'll try to make things right. Nathan stood frozen, struggling to comprehend what he was hearing. The betrayal was too deep, too raw. He couldn't fathom forgiving them. Not just yet. The idea of reconnecting with a daughter he'd never known seemed impossible, and the notion of forgiving a family that had abandoned him for years was overwhelming. As the days passed after his family's revelation, Nathan couldn't get the thought of his daughter out of his mind. Lily. She was 20 years old, and up until now, she had lived her life with the belief that Derek was her father. He was certain she had no idea of the truth, and the shock she must be feeling at discovering everything was a reality he wasn't sure how to handle. He had to reach out to her. Nathan couldn't leave things like this. If she was his daughter, he had to try. He couldn't let the years slip by without making some kind of attempt to connect. But how would he do it? What should he say? Would she even want to know him after everything that had happened? Nathan took a deep breath, sitting at his desk one evening. He opened up his laptop and stared at the blank message box. He hesitated for a long moment before typing his first message to her. "Hi, Lily. I'm Nathan. I'm your biological father. I know this may be shocking and overwhelming, but I wanted to tell you the truth. I never knew you existed until recently, and I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. I know this must be a lot to take in, and I completely understand if you need time. But if you'd like to talk, I'd love to meet you whenever you're ready." He reread the message, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, filled with doubt. What if she rejected him? What if she never wanted to know him, never wanted to be a part of his life? After everything he had learned, he didn't know if he could bear that. With a deep breath, Nathan clicked send. It was done. He had put it out into the world, and now all he could do was wait for a response. 2 weeks passed with no word. Nathan spent every day checking his phone, hoping for a message from Lily, but each time it remained empty. He was beginning to lose hope, to believe that perhaps she never wanted to hear from him. And then one morning, the message came. "I can't believe it. You're my father?" Lily's message read, "I thought Derek was my father all my life. My mom told me nothing. This is so much to process." Nathan's heart raced. She was shocked, of course, and he didn't expect anything less. But there was something in her message that gave him hope. She wanted to meet him. "I'd like to meet you," Lily wrote. "I'm just not sure how to process all of this. I've been living with a lie for so long." Nathan's eyes welled up as he read her words. The shock she must have felt was something he could never truly understand, but he knew he couldn't turn back now. He responded quickly, telling her that he would fly out to meet her. He assured her that there was no rush, that they would take things one step at a time. A week later, Nathan and Claire boarded a plane to meet Lily. When they arrived, they were both nervous. Nathan didn't know what to expect, how to start the conversation, or if Lily would even want to be a part of his life. But one thing was certain. This was his chance to do right by her, to become the father he had never been. When they met at a small cafe, Lily was sitting at a table, her face a mixture of nerves and curiosity. Nathan's heart broke for her. She was so young, so full of questions, and he could tell that she was trying to navigate a world that had just turned upside down. They spent hours talking, slowly breaking down the walls of the past. Lily listened as Nathan told her about his life, his regrets, and his hopes for their future. And slowly she began to open up, telling him about her life, her struggles, and how she had always felt like something was missing. The day after Nathan's meeting with Lily, his family began reaching out to him once again. They sent multiple emails, texts, and even tried to call him several times. They apologized profusely, begging for his forgiveness and asking for a chance to be part of his life again. But Nathan, though tempted to respond, felt nothing but anger toward them. His parents and sister had failed him at the most crucial point in his life. They had hidden the truth about Lily from him, and now they were only showing up because of his success. His father's message read, "We've been wrong, Nathan. We've failed you, and we deeply regret it. We were just trying to protect the family, but we see now how much we've hurt you. Please, let's work this out." But Nathan couldn't just forgive them. Not yet. As the weeks passed, Nathan focused all his energy on his new relationship with Lily. He was determined to make up for the lost years, to be the father she deserved. He and Claire continued to support Lily, giving her space to process the truth and decide what kind of relationship she wanted with him. Nathan didn't expect everything to happen overnight. The road to healing was long and complicated, but he was willing to walk it step by step. He had been given a second chance at fatherhood, and he wasn't going to let that go. The path with his family, however, remained unclear. He had no idea what the future held with them, but he knew that his focus was now on his daughter. Whether his family ever understood or accepted his decision didn't matter anymore. For the first time in a long time, Nathan felt at peace with the choices he was making. The past might have been full of lies and betrayals, but the future was his to shape, and this time he wouldn't let anyone else control it.